Al. Thank you, Michelle. Hi, students. My name is Deb, and I'm with Junior Achievement. And your team invited us to come up with some speakers for this Friday that kind of tied into that JA Inspire platform that you guys have been exploring these last couple of weeks. I hope you have enjoyed the JA Inspire, but we have three wonderful speakers that are going to be here to talk about their career journeys. And I'm going to let them go ahead and do the introductions. But I just wanted to thank you guys for being here today. This is going to be, I hope, very inspiring for all of you. Thank you. Devon, you can go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Devin. I am a healthcare recruiter for New West, which is a specialized talent solution company. They specialize in healthcare roles, travel nursing, allied roles, and then also manufacturing and tech. But I am in the healthcare division. A little bit about me is prior to working at New West is I worked at Starbucks for almost 10 years, met a lot of wonderful people, and through networking ended up landing this current job that I'm in, which was kind of a big career change. In the middle of the pandemic, there was a huge demand for travel nurses to jump on in there during the COVID crisis, and that's where healthcare recruiter roles kind of started popping up and how I got into it. I guess if there's anyone here interested in travel nursing, I would love to answer questions if you had any. If you were going to be a travel nurse tomorrow, ask away any questions. Yeah. So do you want me to keep going if there are no questions, or is everyone going to introduce themselves and we kind of do that? Or
I think it's okay to just keep going, and I'll make sure and answer questions as they go in the chat.
Sure. Okay. So how I it's interesting that I ended up in this role in high school and even early college. I declared my major as a nurse, ended up taking a nutrition course and found I was more interested in nutrition consulting, but ultimately kind of found out I didn't want to be providing patient care in such a hands-on manner. So this job has really been great. And a fun fact about it is I get to actually work remotely 100% of the time. I can move anywhere in the country, including some of the US territories, like Guam, for example. And I can work anywhere in any time zone. And I love that because I can go visit family and work, my normal 8 to 5 and then spend time with them. And I get to be home with my dog all day, and who doesn't love that, right? Day to day, what I do is we have different clients, hospital clients that we work with. And as a team of recruiters, we're kind of assigned different regions of the country, different hospital systems, especially some of the larger ones like Kaiser Permanente is a big one, Sutter Health. So certain recruiters are kind of assigned to work on those big job projects, kind of what we call them. We get a large set of job orders and kind of meet with the account manager who is in contact with the hiring manager and kind of go over what their biggest needs are for the hospitals to operate efficiently. You build relationships with nurses, you kind of discuss their search criteria, kind of like a real estate agent does when you're looking to buy a house. You meet with a realtor, you tell them what neighborhood you want to live in, your price range, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms you want. Travel nurse recruiter is very much like that, but you're working with a registered nurse who's looking for a certain salary, certain type of facility, like a cancer center, certified stroke center, some of those bigger, right? Some nurses really want to work for big hospitals like Stanford, Johns Hopkins, and just kind of go over their day-to-day like job expectations and kind of what they're looking for, just making sure it matches up with what the hiring manager is looking for. So a lot of my job is utilizing LinkedIn, Facebook, and other applicant tracking systems, Indeed, There's nurses.org where nurses actually put their information out there for recruiters to reach out to them. So you're doing a lot of sourcing, calling people on the phone. I like to talk to people. When I worked at Starbucks, that was a huge part of my day, was greeting people, talking to them while I made their coffee. And I kind of do the same thing with nurses now. You also act sort of as like a payroll HR contact. So when hospitals utilize these staffing agencies like New West, they don't have to answer payroll questions for the nurses. They don't have to take up any issues with HR. The agency acts as like all of that. So I do a lot of problem solving, HR work, payroll issue resolving, that sort of thing. Additionally, you're coordinating interviews with the hiring managers and the nurses. Nurses work weird schedules, so do the unit managers, because hospitals are open 24/7. So a lot of it is making sure they have the time to meet and discuss the job role and make sure it's a good fit for the travel nurse. Yeah, so any questions so far about what I do and what I look for in a travel nurse, or I can just keep going?
So I do have a question.
Michelle.
If a travel nurse could they go straight to you or you said that you're finding their applications like on other LinkedIn and that type of thing, but could they like send their application directly to like New West to you?
Yeah, they can. Yeah. So New West has a website. They're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, Vivian is a like sort of platform that all travel nurse agencies use, and nurses create profiles, kind of like a Facebook profile. And we go and post the jobs and they can apply that way, and it actually connects the application straight to our website.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth. So networking is a big thing. New West is like a medium-sized agencies, but some big ones are Aya, Maxim, a lot more well-known. So when someone's looking to be a travel nurse, they know to go to those agencies. New West is very reliant on word of mouth and having like positive experiences with the travel nurses, and that like building that rapport.
I'm happy to put that link in the chat. Could you go ahead and say that one more time?
Yeah, the website.
Yes.
Yeah, I can actually copy and paste it too. I actually have it open. And I can also share, I don't have it in front of me, the Vivian website, because that's a big one for anyone interested in being a travel nurse. I definitely would recommend, because that you can see all the agencies' jobs. Each agency works with, there's so many hospitals. I think there's like 6,000 across the US. New West doesn't work with all 6,000 hospitals. So I will definitely share that link as well, maybe during the wrap up. But that's the link to the website. And there's also, you know, scientific, tech, and engineering roles there too. They kind of do that sort of thing as well. I'm just in the healthcare division, as I mentioned before.
When you say healthcare too, is it just nurses or are there other like physical therapists or doctors or physical therapy assistants, you know, things like that?
So physical therapy, so any allied role, so sonographers, ultrasound technicians, lab technicians, there's so many, there's healthcare is huge. There's doctors, nurses, but there's also support staff, so patient service representatives. I'm definitely more knowledgeable about travel nursing. That is sort of more my niche, and some allied. So the working with sonographers, x-ray technicians is another one. And so all of that is kind of under my umbrella in some way. And then I'm trying to think some other.
Those are really good ones, because I know that we have a lot of students that are looking at like those specialized programs like sonographer or x-ray tech or that kind of thing. And then I always have students that, well, I want to travel. And so I just think that that's a really good thing to explain to them, that it's in that allied health field, even if they're not a registered nurse, they can still maybe travel and do some of those things in those areas.
Yeah, and those allied roles, the support staff, they're really important. there's a lot more support staff roles and travel nursing roles. And one of the things, and when I spoke with Deb, one of the things that I find really interesting is it's not a 4-year degree to be those things. So you can make a decent living and not have to take on the cost of a 4-year university or 4-year education, which is very expensive these days. I'm sure some of you guys maybe have started to look at tuition prices. Yeah, so I have all that information too that I can also share, kind of like what those like certifications look like, the years of experience you need, and that sort of thing. So that kind of goes into what I look for, like when I'm like interviewing an allied or travel nurse. What I look for is their years of experience, their education level, what certifications they have, whether they're certified or non-certified, because there are certain roles where you can be a certified surgical technician or like a non-certified surgical technician, but that affects the pay, the type of hospital you can work at, the trauma level, like whether you can work at a teaching facility, and other certain criteria that the hiring managers have, because some will hire non-certified versus certified technicians of sorts. So that's a kind of led me into that, like what I look for when I'm, matching a candidate to a hiring manager's open job order. A big thing I do is screen resumes and kind of looking at that and even giving feedback to the, tech or registered nurse, kind of like what they can do to be a more ideal candidate, cleaning up their resume, and that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And students, if you have any questions as we continue on, you can go ahead and pop those in the chat. But and then we're going to take questions at the end too as well. So why don't we go ahead and have our next speaker. Jonna, are you available?
I am. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonna Phillips, and actually I wanted to see if it might be possible for me to also share kind of a slide. Is that okay?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Awesome. Before I do that, though, I'm wondering if in the chat, if the students that are here today could maybe put a yes or a check mark if you actually know what SMUD is. So I want to pause just a second while I start putting up my presentation, just to see really quickly who knows what SMUD is. See if you're paying attention. So far, only Deb has responded. I'd love to see if some students also know.
It looks like we get a few more. We've got a I heard of it and an I do. So
Okay, great. So that is, as I said, SMUD is actually the organization that I work for. And the organization is a public utility organization. And basically what that means is that we provide the energy and electricity that keeps all of your house lights on every day. So it's a pretty important organization. And for a SMUD, I actually work in public information. So I'm a public information specialist in corporate communications. And what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of background about myself and my career, but then I also want to take a little bit of time to tell you about the other careers that SMUD has available. So give me just a second, because computers never work the way that you want them to when you want them to, which is always great. So I'm not sure. No, it's not sharing yet.
Michelle, does she have access to share?
Okay, are you able to see it now?
yes, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, great. So about my own, if I can get it to change here. Now it's not wanting to on me. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it just said Zoom quit. So what's going on here? So yeah, everyone, just know there's always technical problems.
Uh-oh. No, now I think we lost her. Yeah, we did.
Okay, did we lose you?
Oh,
Came
there,
back.
there she
Yeah.
is.
One of these days I'll get this to work properly. So is my screen still sharing?
So you'll have to reshare your screen.
Okay,
Might
awesome.
help if you turn off your video when you when you share. It might be.
Oh, okay. Let me do that really quick. Let me just stop my video. There, let's give that a try. Okay, so to give you just a little bit of my my own background.
We were seeing the wrong.
Are you just seeing a whiteboard right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's all that's up right now is just a white screen, so that's okay. So yeah, so you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not native Californian. I actually grew up in a really small town in Texas. It was about 3,000 people, and my high school graduating class only had 48 people in it. So when I say I grew up in a small town, I grew up in a really small town. But I had the opportunity and moved to California. Worked in California for a while, and believe it or not, I did not start going to college until I was in my 30s. Just because I grew up in a small town, we didn't have a lot of money, I didn't have a lot of opportunities. So, you know, had to go straight into the workforce. And sometimes that's the choice you either have to make, or it could be a choice that you want to make. You don't always have to go straight into college. There are other options that you can take. But in my 30s, when I moved to California, I thought, you know, if I want to go further in my career, because I was doing sales and marketing, I really need to go to college. So I went to Sac State. I majored in business administration because I thought, well, business administration, it's pretty flexible. You know, I could go into HR, I could go into marketing, I could go into finance. And I actually chose to go into brand and marketing and started following that. I also minored in German at Sac State, which is kind of weird for most people to do, but I needed some type of a foreign language. And it was the only one that fit into my schedule. So I thought, oh, what the heck, let's learn German. Believe it or not, it actually in the end served me really well, because after I went back into the workforce after graduating, I had a professor contact me and say, hey, I heard about this really interesting fellowship in Germany, and I thought of you because of your background in market research and marketing, and the fact that you know a little bit of German. What do you think about applying? So I took a chance and applied, and I actually got the fellowship, which was amazing to me because everyone else in the fellowship were from Harvard and Stanford, and I was like, stingers up. So it was a little bit different than everyone else that was there, but I actually got the opportunity to go to Germany. I lived in southern Germany and did a year worth of research while I was there. Really wonderful experience. Still can't believe I got that opportunity coming from where I did. Went back to Sacramento, got a job in public health, doing communications, and kind of shifted to communications for a while, but I had fallen in love with Germany and I really wanted to go back. So I took another chance and applied through a website called Idealist, which has a lot of nonprofit organization positions. And I actually got hired. So I went back to Germany, and I spent about 3 years working for an organization called Fair Trade International. You may have seen it before on a Ben & Jerry's or other type of food product. You can see that little logo right there. And what we did with Fair Trade International was we work with farmers in the global South, trying to make sure that they get paid fair wages. So Ben & Jerry's purchases cocoa and bananas and sugar through Fair Trade International, or through organizations that work with Fair Trade International. So I thought that was a super cool job, but I wanted to learn more. I had been working in communications at that time for about 15 years, and I wanted to branch out. So I actually applied for a position with the United Nations as a training and learning coordinator. and was able to go into that organization. And I did a lot of learning. I was kind of starting from scratch in a lot of ways because it was a new field. But sometimes that's what you have to do to figure out what you really enjoy. Even if you've been doing something for 5 or 10 or 15 years, there's no reason why you can't try something new. So I did that for a few years and said, you know what? I think it's time to go back home to California. So went back to California and decided to work as a consultant. Given the experiences that I've had, I thought that would be great. And I was really fortunate because I actually had the opportunity to work with some UN agencies because of my contacts. So whenever I was able to go to different workshops and things like that, I would just make as many contacts as I could, talk to people, show a lot of respect to them. And I got to work in about 4 different European countries. And I actually even got to go to Japan as a consultant. So again, as a small town Texas girl, that just kind of blew my mind that those opportunities are out there. You just have to look for them and be open to them. Well, after a few years being a consultant, Germany called my name again. So I went back to working for Fair Trade during the pandemic, which was a whole different experience working in Germany during the pandemic, much stricter than it was in the US. But when the pandemic came to end, my husband said, you know, my parents are getting older. The pandemic has really changed my mindset. We should go back to California. And hand on heart, I said, I'm not going back to California and Sacramento unless I can work for SMUD. And that was really my intent. I had done a lot of research on SMUD when I lived in California. I had their electricity. And I thought to myself, this is the type of culture and organization that I want to work for. They do good work. They're making sure that people's lights stay on every day, but they do so much more than that. So to tell you a little bit about my work here at SMUD, I work in communications. As I said before, this just gives you an overview of some of the different things we do. I work on an internal newsletter that kind of keeps us aware of what's happening in the organization. We have some really big goals where we want to get 0 carbon in our electricity system by the end of 2030. So we put together all kinds of information, both internally and externally, to let people know that that's happening. I get to work with our DIB team, the diversity team, to make sure that, you know, I'm really helping shape the culture within the organization through working with them. So I'm really excited about that. We get to produce some amazing videos about staff and what they do and board members and what they do. So that's really fun as well. But another thing that I love about SMUD, as I said before, is its culture. So not only are we working, we get to go out and volunteer in the community. We've done a Habitat for Humanity build for Women's Day. I've gone and worked with an organization called Save Them All, which is a horse rescue. I get to do things like this, which is a career ambassador program. So SMUD really cares about the people who work here as well as their community, which is why I'm so excited about working for them. So let me tell you a little bit more about careers at SMUD. And if there are questions, Deb or Michelle, if you could let me know, that would be great. So I said before, who's SMUD? We're a local nonprofit. Oh, somebody misspelled that. Electric company. We serve about 1.5 million people in the Sacramento area. At SMUD, we have careers from customer service reps to communications to line workers to engineers to snowcat drivers, as you saw in the previous slide. SMUD has about 2,300 employees, and our average salary is $104,000 a year. So it's a really great organization to start out and grow with. We also have great benefits as an organization. Jobs are on smud.org/careers, and I'll make sure that we get that link to you. It's very diverse. It's inclusive. We have really good benefits, as I said before, and we really, really value our community. One thing that you need to know is that not all careers within SMUD require a college degree. There are a lot of the ones such as our line workers and different things like that that only require either a high school diploma or technical training. So there is an opportunity to get into the organization and grow with it. I only have about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. You can see some of the more communications type opportunities we have here. We have skilled trades like cable splicers, electricians, facility station engineers. If you're into engineering and you want to, or STEM activities, and you want to go into something like an engineering field, we actually have student assistants. If you're a full-time college junior or senior, you can actually get paid while you're going to school and learn on the job, which I think is great. And then as you can see here, you can actually work up from being a student assistant all the way to a director. We have those career paths available, which I think is really exciting. Even if you're still in high school, there's opportunities at SMUD. We have a paid summer internship. You get paid $13 an hour. It's a 6-week internship, and we rotate school districts. I'm showing this is 21 and 22, but actually we're back up to Elk Grove, Folsom, Cordova, Natomas, and Twin Rivers. And if you're a college student, we also have summer college internships. And my apologies, this was given to me and I'm noticing some of the things are off in terms of pay, but the basic information is still there. You get paid between $16 and $24 an hour, and it's a 12-week internship. Another great thing is if you are still in high school, we do have scholarships available up to $5,000. You have to either have a parent or live in the SMUD area to qualify, but you don't have to go to college in the Sacramento area. So as long as you're a SMUD customer or your parents are a SMUD customer, you could still apply for a scholarship. So that's where I'm going to end because I want to make sure everyone else has time to tell you about their careers and their career journeys as well. I'm not sure if anyone had any questions in the chat. Let me just double check.
I don't see questions in the chat, but I just wanted to see if if you can make sure and email me that PowerPoint, and I will make sure and post that for students.
Absolutely. I'll make sure those 2 slides are updated though before I send it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right, so I should just go ahead.
Yeah, and students, if you have any other questions, I know we're going over a lot of different careers. So if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. But go ahead, Chris. Thank you.
All right. So my name's Chris Savarino. I'm a mechanical engineering contractor or consultant. And that basically means that I have my own company and I go and help other companies design new products or improve existing products. So I have a lot of meetings, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of 3D CAD work, calculations, testing, prototyping. I try to get as hands-on as much as I can. I go to like clients' businesses and get my hands on their products and figure out, get the best idea of the whole ecosystem around the products as far as service and design and use and all that kind of stuff. I love it because I get to learn about all different kinds of things and solve all different kinds of weird problems, industries from like medical companies to hair trimming to cell phone cases, all different kinds of weird stuff. So I will show you a couple of places that a couple of projects that I've worked on real quick here. So this was my first job was for this company. I worked on this launch and recovery system for ROVs that go down to the bottom of the ocean and work on oil rigs and do scientific research. This was my senior project at Sac State. It was a rock crusher for an ROV to go down and take samples of rock off of sea cliffs and bring them back up for analysis. I worked at another place that made these big carbon fiber, basically jets for Air Force to train their pilots. So they can remotely control these things and pilots try to shoot them down basically. Worked on this big robotic arm, again for ROVs. So this goes to the bottom of the ocean and you can just grab equipment and things and do, it's mostly for oil industry support and maintenance. And I made a kind of a big change to consumer products. So this was Pilates equipment manufacturer, so exercise equipment. Did a bunch of prototyping and testing there. It was very interesting. Everything I had done before was very industrial and small quantities. So everything cost a lot, but we only made so many a year. And this was very much the opposite, where it needed to cost a lot less and we'd make a whole bunch more a year. So it was an interesting shift. And now I run ThoughtBomb Design. It's my design company. So it's just me. I don't have anybody else. It's how I like it. I definitely work with the teams and my clients and stuff. So I'm working with people all the time. But as far as people that would work for me, I don't have to deal with any kind of HR issues and like salaries and hiring and firing and all that stuff. I get to just focus on the work and do that. I do have a YouTube channel. I put up a YouTube video every once in a while on kind of engineering related things. And I have a garage full of tools and things that I use to prototype and work on projects for clients and for myself. Let's see. All right, was there a question there? Okay, yeah. Let's see. So let me get back to here. All right, so a little bit about how I got here. My grandpa and dad were mechanics, so I've always been around cars and tools and things getting taken apart. And as a kid, I loved Legos and really taking things apart as much as I could. Looking back, there was kind of one school assignment that really stands out. And it was this real simple little electric circuit thing. I had to do it was for some science project. And so my dad helped me take apart a flashlight and make a simple, battery light switch kind of thing. And it really just kind of clicked to me at that moment that, everything around you is designed by somebody. And it really all is kind of basic mechanisms, and it's nothing is magic, right? So you could end up, as long as you put the effort in, you can end up designing stuff your own and you're by yourself and figuring stuff out on your own. So I thought that was super interesting. Let's see. So I also really like to draw and carve as I was in high school and before that too. And so when it was time to declare a major, I was fairly conflicted whether I wanted to do something like graphic design or mechanical engineering. I ended up choosing engineering because I figured I could draw and do artistic stuff on the side, and engineering, you kind of need a degree to really do much in that. It's not really as much the case anymore with YouTube, and there's so many more STEM type programs and things available. Obviously, to have probably an established engineering career, you still need to go to school, but there's so much more that you can learn on yourself now, learn on your own now. That's pretty cool. I'm kind of jealous. I got my first full-time engineering job by having an internship while I was still in college. And I still think that's the best way by far to get an engineering job, and really probably a job in any career, is to intern and get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to see what people actually do in careers day to day. Because when it comes down to it, you're in high school or early college, you don't really know what any career actually involves. And I didn't, and I still don't know what other careers are really day to day. So anything you can do to kind of expose yourself to their day-to-day lives so that you can really see if it looks like something that interests you, I think is very useful. And it also helps to stand out on resumes and things that people can see that you've actually taken an interest in a career. So for mechanical engineering in particular, I definitely recommend getting any experience you can. My mom would go to thrift stores and garage sales when I was little and buy me things to take apart. And I would take them apart and see how stuff worked and see if I could figure out how the parts inside were made and things like that. Super useful. So I also teach part-time at Sac State, and I can definitely tell the kids who have been taking things apart and building things and playing with Legos and things their whole life versus the people that haven't done anything and just came to school. Definitely having that hands-on experience makes a big difference. So it doesn't even necessarily need to be an internship or actually some formal engineering thing, right? Just getting your hands dirty, taking stuff apart is super useful. Once you have a job, I have 3 kind of main pieces of advice. Number 1 is be a humble sponge. There's always going to be people that know more than you, and you probably know more than them about certain things. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong with asking questions and really trying to understand new things. Most people don't ask questions because they're embarrassed to not look like they know everything already, but most people don't. And when you say, yeah, I understand that, when you don't really understand it, it usually ends up backfiring. So you don't have to ask every question that pops in your head, but you need to ask enough to really kind of know what's going on. And so don't be afraid to ask questions. Number two is realize that nobody's perfect. Sometimes I can be really hard on myself. Sometimes, thinking that there's no way I'm qualified to do the job that I'm doing. Somebody's going to figure me out and fire me right away as soon as they do. But the truth is that most people are too busy doing their own stuff to really worry about too much about you. So just be nice to yourself as much as you can, do the best you can. And if you struggle with that kind of stuff, really in any career, do some looking into imposter syndrome. It's definitely a common thing. Most people have it. It's nothing strange. So look into it and just try to be nice to yourself. And I'd still struggle with that today. So it's not a weird thing. And then number three, I think it's definitely important to be dedicated and invested in your work while you're there. Be focused and doing what you need to do and really putting all your energy into it, but don't let it become your whole life. There's always more work to do. So don't feel like you should stay at work until 8 or 9 at work, at 8 or 9 o'clock every day. Go home at a reasonable time and do something fun. There's always times when, there's a huge rush and you got to stay late or something, but don't make a habit of that, making that your whole life. Let's see. And then as far as starting your own company, like me, I think my best advice is to just understand that business owners and other employees are just people too. When it comes down to it, they have things they need to get done. They have things they need to get figured out. And if you are easy to work with and you can do good work, then you'll do just fine. Like that's basically my goal is when I work with a new client is to just pretty much help them in any way I can. Obviously, it's going to be engineering focused, but I have other ideas and I try to help out anywhere I can. And so if you can do that and be easy to work with, then you'll be fine. I've never really had to advertise. It's all been word of mouth. So I think that that has worked well. So I don't have to spend time advertising. I just have to, put myself out there and make myself available, and it seems to be working out. Resources, I think YouTube is freaking amazing. You can find anything you want to know, how to program something, how to design something, how to model it in SolidWorks. Definitely use that as much as you can. I still look up stuff all the time, how something is made or how it works. Again, thrift stores and garage sales to find stuff to take apart, DVD players, tape players, vacuum cleaners, anything. There's always little weird things in there to learn, little cool mechanisms and things. And get your hands dirty. If you don't have tools, Harbor Freight has cheap tools to take stuff apart or build stuff. There's so many things available now. So definitely get your hands dirty and get as much experience as you can, whether it's formal or not, right? Just tinker with stuff. Lego, I played with Legos forever. I was taking apart tape players and taking the motors out and like making little helicopters and things out of Lego bits. So there's always stuff to tinker with. So that's pretty much what I've got. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see.
We have somebody asking what your YouTube channel is. Can you put that in the chat maybe?
Yeah. My company name is Thought Bomb Design. So yeah, it's just Thought Bomb Design on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. Let's see. And if you have any questions, there's my email too. You can shoot me an email. Yeah, if you want help figuring out how something works or any kind of engineering type questions, feel free.
I would love for the students to pop in the chat what careers they're interested in. It doesn't have to be one that they're super interested in, just throw them in there. And then maybe our panel can even speak to some of them. So if you don't mind, students, go ahead and pop those in there. Interior designer, excellent. Counselor. I know that you need counseling skills and people skills in all jobs. So that is a very good career. And Chris, you can even speak to design, any kind of designer. It doesn't matter interior or not.
Oh, cool. One thing I always like to point out to, and I always think this when I talk to people in high school or early college, like it's kind of ridiculous that you have to decide right now what your career is going to be. Like you don't have any idea of what the breadth of, career possibilities that there are. If you're somebody that's not super interested in one thing, that's fine. Like there's a billion careers out there that you have no idea exist, that I have no idea exist. Just get into something that's kind of vaguely what you're interested in or what what you're good at. And you can always change jobs and careers. So I think just kind of head in vaguely what you feel is the right direction, and you can kind of ping pong around and you'll end up somewhere useful. Because honestly, once you get in the workforce, you'll find out about so many more careers and jobs than exist right now. So don't feel like you can only be like a doctor, an engineer, these like 10 careers that everybody knows of. There's so many out there.
Yeah, because I just saw someone's interested in American Sign Language. And Jana, you can speak to that. I think your company might even have in communications in general. I meant that's a real talent.
Yeah, I mean, from a communications perspective, I mean, my communications is more written communications, but you've probably seen there's really been a boom in terms of diversity for ASL. I know I am so fascinated, and it's almost become, like a cult interest type thing to watch these ASL interpreters at concerts and online, and what they're able to do is amazing. I personally don't have any resources for ASL, but I know that there are groups, even within Sacramento, where you would be able to get some additional information. You would probably, if you ask me who they are, I'd have to Google them. So you could do that as well. I know there was a mention of interior designers, and if there are some interior design firms. I actually have a good friend who's an interior designer. She had a degree in something completely different. And, like Chris was saying, you try different things, and she has transferred into becoming an interior designer. But I can reach out to her and find out, because I know she did an internship because she went back to junior college to get some of the basics of interior design. And I know she got an internship there. So let me see if I can figure out who she was working with, and I'll get in touch with you and let you know who that would be. Another thing that I wanted to mention, that through SMUD, and I'll send these materials over as well, our workforce, we actually have a workforce development team and a workforce outreach team. And so they're trying to find our workforce for the future. So not just the ones for today, but actually the ones for 5, 10, 15 years from now, as technology is changing, especially in, the kind of green economy that we're looking at, and how we're changing from our typical thermal energy to things like hydrogen and things like long-term storage. And we don't even know what the future is going to look like with this. So we actually work with several organizations that give free training in different areas of technology. It could be something like how electric car batteries work, or it could be, I'm trying to remember what the other one was. It was more like electrical technician type things. I was hoping to get a flyer for that before this, but I'll make sure that I share that flyer, because I never knew that these types of things existed. And listening to Chris, you probably saw me nodding and everything else. As a kid, I loved taking all of these things apart, but especially when I grew up, because I'm a lot older than you guys, it was like, girls don't do engineering, girls don't do STEM type things. And so now, instead of electrical things, I tend to take furniture apart and figure out how furniture is put together, and, try to put it back together and really understand like dovetail joints and these different things that, I wouldn't have been interested in before, because now it seems acceptable. So I think that's something to really understand too is don't be limited by what people tell you you can or can't do, whether it's because you're a girl or a boy, or you're, 16 years old, or you're 25 years old. If you have an interest in something, follow that interest. You never know where it's going to take you. And like Chris said, and I mentioned, I started out doing sales and marketing, and then I went to brand, which is something kind of different. And then I started doing learning and training, which is completely different than all of those things. And it's okay to change your mind about what you like. It's okay to switch careers as many times as you want. I mean, it's your life, it's your career. Enjoy it. I mean, find those things that make you happy, find those things that make you excited to get in there and do something, whether it's, being a stylist or doing interior design or working on a wind turbine. It doesn't matter. If you enjoy it, that's what's the most important thing.
And a lot of times your jobs that you get, especially your first job, you're not going to get your dream job at the bat. Like nobody, just something vaguely in the industry or related is fine. And you can move on from there. I see students all the time, like stressing that they want to do rockets or automotive something. And like, that's all they want to do. That's all they want to do. I'm like, that's fine. But I mean, I've worked at other places that make pumps for locomotives, like fuel pumps for locomotives. I don't really care about that, but it was interesting and I got to learn stuff. So yeah, don't feel like every job needs to be your dream thing. And different people have different approaches to this, but I've definitely always taken the approach that I stay at a job until I feel like I've kind of learned everything and it starts feeling repetitive and boring, and I'm out of there. I'm looking for something else to learn something new. I have friends that have worked at other places for their whole careers, and that's totally fine too. But I always want to just keep learning more. In the back of my head, I never want to work someplace too long and to get kind of stagnant and to, where I feel like I can only design one type of thing. And because if that company goes out of business, then you're kind of posed. But other than that, it's still just, I need to be interested in learning new stuff. So, still engineering, there's still plenty of stuff out there to be figured out. So, yeah, once you start getting bored, not the minute you get bored, right? Obviously not every job is super exciting all the time, but the minute you start feeling like you're, okay, I've done this like 5 times already, I'm kind of done. And there's more interesting stuff out there. I think it's time to start looking, for me, at least.
I would like to piggyback off of what Chris said about your first job isn't going to be your dream job. So like reading in the comments, those of you interested in interior design, makeup artistry, look at those brands that you like to use at makeup. Go look at their job boards on their website. There's a lot of entry-level work. Working at a retail level, there's ways to transition from the retail front to the back end, like supply chain management, that sort of thing. And if you have that passion for makeup, you would love to work for, like Urban Decay, Ulta. There's jobs besides just working at the storefront. You might have to start there to get your foot in the door, meet the right people. Same with interior design, home goods, right? I mean, there's somebody who goes and curates all of the things that you see at a storefront. You just have to think outside the box. And that's something I wish I would have known at your age. Is there's so many things that go into what you see at those entry-level jobs. Be curious about who picked this piece of furniture in a restaurant. Like that's somebody's job. If you like interior design,
And if you start at one of those, retail jobs, if you just show interest and be like, hey, how did that get decided? Or, who does that? People notice that. And, you never know, you could, your third week somewhere, you could get sent off to some training or, go help somebody do something else and make a good impression and you're off to it. So, yeah, just being interested in asking questions about how stuff works gets you a long way.
Yeah, I have to say, in my small area where I worked, my first professional job was working with a pizza chain, handing out coupons, which was super exciting. It was the most boring job in the world. But just as Chris was saying, I started asking, well, why are you giving this coupon here versus that coupon there? It doesn't make sense. They're not the same customers. And actually asking those questions of the pizza chain manager, then it went up to, the actual owner of the pizza chain. And within about I don't know, 8 months or so, I actually started working in marketing for that organization without having a degree, because I was asking those questions and because I was noticing the difference in one neighborhood versus another neighborhood. So as Chris said, just find something, even if you're doing a job you don't absolutely love, but it's the thing you have, figure out what it is you like about that job. Is it conversing with the customers? Is it closing down the register at night because you're, kind of looking at what came in and what came out? Is it, actually making sure that, in a fast food area, that your area stays clean, or that you're doing things the exact way every time? There are so many of those skills that are going to transfer to other jobs that you may have in the future. If you're interested in being a stylist, it might be the other way around. You may need to learn some business skills before you go into being a stylist, because especially if you're a contractor, you're going to have to know how to stock, and you're going to have to be able to tell what your income and your outgo is. You're going to have to learn how to market yourself. So every job you have, there's never a single task that you have to do. You have to learn different things for every job. So, as Chris and Devin were saying, stay open, really look around you to see what it is that you enjoy and you don't enjoy, and then think about how you can apply that to other things.
And I want to give one additional resources. There's some extended learning opportunities for those of you who went through JA Inspire. You may have came across it, and I'll make sure your teachers, your counselors have a copy of this. But if you're interested in hotel restaurant management, the Culinary Institute, there are a lot of associations out there that do have summer programs for students, or people right out of high school that can get dialed in with different careers. Siemens Mobility designs train engines, and they have all kinds. There's just a lot of different extended learning opportunities that Junior Achievement has out there. So we'll make sure that, like I said, that your counselors will have those, so you can get dialed in this summer and keep exploring.
Deb, I have to piggyback on that with Siemens. I have a lot of friends who have worked there, and because I've already mentioned my love for Germany, Siemens is a German company, and a lot of times they'll do trades for internships. So they'll have German interns come over for the summer, but they also send interns from different areas to Germany, to their big factory over there, kind of in the southern part of Germany. So also look at opportunities if you're interested in travel, because you would be surprised. There are also opportunities to go to Australia for a summer and work in Australia, or to go to Europe for a summer and work in Europe. You just have to be willing to explore and look for those opportunities, and don't wait for them to come to you, because if you wait for them to come to you, it's probably not going to happen. But there are so many opportunities out there for you that didn't exist when we were your age and in high school. So don't limit yourself.
Yeah, and being bilingual in anything, American Sign Language, Spanish, German, whatever, that is a huge, companies love that no matter what. So I just want to, that comment kind of keeps coming back. Any other final questions here in the last minute or two before we wrap up? You guys have been great today.
Thank you so much for coming and for all this great information. And we definitely want to take, so if you could kind of send in that email to Reese and I think Reese and I are on that email, that just kind of send everything our way. We can make sure and post it to our counseling website and also our career technical education website, so that our students have all of the access that you guys.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having us today. This has been a great experience for me, for sure. I learned a lot.